Let me start with something that might genuinely surprise you. The idea that walking is the gold standard of exercise for older adults did not come from medical research. It came from a cardiac rehabilitation model developed in the 1950s for heart attack survivors. After World War II, doctors noticed that patients who had suffered heart attacks were being confined to strict bed rest for weeks, sometimes months. Their hearts recovered, but their entire bodies deteriorated. So cardiologists introduced a revolutionary protocol. Get patients walking as soon as possible after a cardiac event. The results for heart recovery were remarkable. Blood pressure improved, circulation stabilized. Patients left the hospital faster. And from that point forward, walking became synonymous with total body health in the minds of both physicians and the general public. But here is the problem nobody addressed for the next 70 years. That walking protocol was designed exclusively to rehabilitate the cardiovascular system. It was never intended to maintain the muscular skeleton. It was never tested for preventing falls. It was never evaluated for preserving hip stability or pelvic strength. Cardiologists solved a heart problem, and then the entire medical establishment extended that solution to every system in the body without a shred of supporting evidence. Walking became a universal prescription written on a foundation built only for the heart. And millions of Americans over 60 are paying the price for that overgeneralization right now. Walking is genuinely wonderful for your heart. I will never argue against that. Your cardiovascular system thrives on rhythmic, sustained movement. Your blood vessels stay flexible. Your resting heart rate improves. But your heart is not what sends you to a walker. Your heart is not what causes you to lose your independence. The muscles that determine whether you stay upright or fall catastrophically are your gluteal muscles and your hip flexors. These are the deep stabilizers of your pelvis. They control your balance every single time you shift your weight, step sideways, or recover from a stumble. And walking on flat ground activates these muscles at barely 20% of their capacity. You could walk 10 miles a day and your glutes would still be quietly wasting away underneath you, becoming weaker with every passing month, silently edging you closer to the day someone hands you a walker and tells you it is for your own safety. I am going to prove this to you right now, not with a chart, not with a lecture, with your own body. Before we continue, share with us in the comments your age and where you are watching from. We read and reply to every single comment. I need you to stop scrolling, stop multitasking. Give me 60 seconds of your full attention because what you are about to feel will tell you more about your future independence than any doctor visit you have had this year. Find a sturdy chair, not a rolling office chair, not a soft couch, a solid kitchen chair or dining chair. Sit down, press your back firmly against the backrest. Place both feet flat on the floor, knees bent at roughly 90 degrees. Now here's what I want you to do. Keep your left foot planted firmly on the ground. Straighten your right leg out in front of you until your knee is fully extended. Good. Now, without leaning to either side, without gripping the chair with your hands, I want you to lift that straightened right leg approximately 6 inches higher so it rises off the plane of the seat. Keep it hovering there with your knee completely locked and your toes pointing toward the ceiling. This is the 10-second seated hip lift test. What you are testing is not your thigh. You are testing whether your gluteus medius and your deep hip stabilizers can hold your pelvis steady under load. Start counting with me. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Pay very close attention to your right hip joint, not your knee. Your hip, can you feel a deep trembling near the outside of your hip bone? That tremor is not normal fatigue. That is your gluteus medius firing and failing in rapid alternation. Those muscle fibers are desperately trying to stabilize your pelvis, and they are losing the battle in real time. 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds. Is your leg shaking visibly now? Can you see the micro tremors running through your thigh? Is your pelvis starting to tilt or rotate even though you are trying with everything you have to keep it level? That rotation is your body compensating for a gluteus medius that can no longer do its job. Every single time you take a step on uneven ground, this exact compensation happens. And one day, the compensation will not be enough. 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. Now lower your legs slowly. How did that feel? Was your hip rock solid for the full 10 seconds with no shaking, no burning, no pelvic tilt? If so, your hip stabilizers are still functional. But if you felt trembling before 5 seconds, if your hip burned intensely before you reached 8, if your leg drifted downward despite your concentrated effort to hold it, you have just identified the precise muscular failure that puts people in walkers. You have just felt your own vulnerability. Let me give you a number that should make this deeply personal. Research published in the Journal of the American Medical Association tracked over 1,200 adults aged 65 and older for 4 years. Participants who demonstrated gluteal weakness during clinical hip stability testing were 3.8 times more likely to suffer a fall requiring emergency medical treatment. And here is the statistic that changes lives. Among adults over 65 who fracture a hip from a fall, between 20 and 30% die within 1 year. Not from the broken bone, from the devastating chain reaction that follows. Immobility leads to pneumonia. Bed rest causes blood clots. Loss of independence triggers severe depression. The fracture is just the first domino. That trembling you felt in your hip 10 seconds ago is the warning. It is telling you exactly which domino is already wobbling. Now let me explain precisely why this is happening inside your body, because understanding the biology is what makes the solution so clear. You have 3 muscles that form the structural foundation of your hips and pelvis. The first is your gluteus maximus. This is the largest muscle in your entire body. It is the powerful mass of tissue that forms the shape of your buttocks. Its primary job is hip extension, which means driving your thigh backward and propelling you forward when you walk, climb stairs, or stand up from a chair. The second is your gluteus medius. This muscle sits on the outer surface of your pelvis, just below your hip bone. You cannot see it easily, but it performs arguably the most critical stability function in your entire lower body. Every time you stand on one leg, which happens with every single step you take, your gluteus medius is the muscle that prevents your pelvis from dropping on the opposite side. Without it, your hips would collapse sideways with every stride. The third is your iliopsoas, commonly called the hip flexor. This deep muscle connects your lumbar spine to your femur. It is responsible for lifting your thigh toward your chest. It is what allows you to clear your foot off the ground when you step forward. When your hip flexor weakens, your feet stop lifting properly. You begin to shuffle instead of stride. And shuffling is the gait pattern most strongly associated with catastrophic tripping falls. Here is the critical science. Inside each of these muscles, you have 2 primary types of muscle fibers. Type 1 fibers are your slow twitch fibers. They are built for endurance. They contract with modest force, but they can sustain that contraction for long periods without exhausting themselves. These are the fibers that keep you walking for 30 minutes without collapsing. Type 2 fibers are your fast twitch fibers. They are built for power and speed. They contract explosively and with tremendous force, but they fatigue rapidly. These are the fibers that fire when your foot catches on a crack in the sidewalk, and you have roughly 200 milliseconds to stabilize your pelvis and catch yourself before you hit the concrete. After age 60, something devastating happens. You begin losing type 2 fibers at roughly 2 to 3 times the rate you lose type 1 fibers. This process is called sarcopenia, and it is selective. It preferentially destroys the very fibers you need most to prevent falls. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology by researchers at the University of Pittsburgh performed muscle biopsies on adults over a 10-year period. They found that participants lost approximately 12 to 15% of their slow twitch fibers per decade after 60, but they lost up to 45% of their fast twitch fibers during that same window. Nearly half of the explosive, stabilizing fibers simply vanished. Walking uses almost exclusively type 1 fibers. The gentle, rhythmic, repetitive motion of walking on flat ground requires endurance, but demands almost no explosive power. Your type 2 fibers sit completely idle during a walk. They receive no stimulus. They receive no challenge. And muscle fibers that receive no challenge do not simply remain static. They atrophy, they shrink, they die. A clinical trial published in the journal Age and Aging in 2023 compared two groups of adults aged 60 to 79. One group walked for 45 minutes, 5 days per week for 20 weeks. The other group performed targeted hip resistance exercises for just 20 minutes, 3 times per week. Muscle biopsies and functional stability assessments were performed before and after the intervention. The resistance exercise group showed a 31% improvement in type 2 fiber cross-sectional area in the gluteus medius. The walking group showed no measurable improvement in type 2 fiber size whatsoever. In fact, several participants in the walking group demonstrated continued type 2 fiber atrophy despite walking faithfully every single day. They were losing the very fibers they needed most while believing they were protecting themselves. This is why walking is not enough, and this is why 4 specific exercises could genuinely save your independence. Exercise number 1, the seated glute squeeze and bridge hold. This exercise directly targets your gluteus maximus with an intensity that walking can never approach. Sit in your sturdy chair with your feet flat on the floor, roughly hip-width apart. Slide forward so you are sitting on the front third of the seat. Your knees should be bent at approximately 90 degrees. Place your hands on your thighs. Keep your spine tall and your shoulders pulled back gently. Do not slouch. Your feet should be firmly planted with your weight distributed evenly across both heels and the balls of your feet. Now here is the execution. Press down through both heels as if you are trying to push the floor away from you. Simultaneously squeeze your glutes together as hard as you possibly can. Imagine you are trying to crack a walnut between your buttocks. That image may sound humorous, but it produces exactly the right contraction intensity. As you squeeze, do not try to lift your hips off the chair. Just hold that intense squeeze right where you are sitting for 5 full seconds. During those 5 seconds, focus your mental attention entirely on the deep burn forming in both buttocks. That burning sensation means your gluteus maximus fibers are activating under real load, possibly for the first time in years. Breathe steadily throughout. Inhale through your nose before you squeeze. Exhale slowly through your mouth during the 5-second hold. Release the squeeze slowly over 4 seconds. Do not just let go instantly. That slow release creates eccentric loading, which research has shown builds strength up to 40% faster than the squeezing phase alone. Perform 10 repetitions, rest for 45 seconds, complete 3 total sets. Exercise number 2, the seated single leg hip hold. This movement targets your gluteus medius, the critical stabilizer that failed during the 10-second test. Sit with your back pressed firmly against the backrest of your chair. Place both feet flat on the floor. Rest your hands gently on the armrests or on the sides of the seat for light balance support only. Do not grip tightly. You are not supposed to use your arms to help. Now lift your right foot off the floor by raising your entire right leg with your knee still bent at 90 degrees. Lift until your right thigh is parallel to the ground or as close to parallel as you can achieve. The moment your thigh reaches this position, freeze. Hold it there. Do not let it drift downward. You will feel a deep, intense contraction in the crease where your thigh meets your pelvis and along the outside of your right hip. That outside hip sensation is your gluteus medius engaging. Hold for 6 full seconds. Breathe in through your nose for 3 counts and out through your mouth for 3 counts during the hold. Lower your foot slowly over 3 seconds. Switch to your left leg immediately. Alternate for a total of 16 repetitions, 8 per side. Rest for 60 seconds between sets. Complete 3 sets. The tempo is critical. 6 seconds up and holding, 3 seconds lowering. Do not rush. Speed destroys the effectiveness of this exercise. Exercise number 3, the standing hip abduction with chair support. This exercise isolates the gluteus medius through a different movement plane and challenges your balance simultaneously. Stand behind your sturdy chair. Place both hands on the top of the backrest for balance. Stand tall with your feet together and your core gently engaged. Draw your navel slightly toward your spine. Now shift your weight entirely onto your left leg, keeping your right leg completely straight with your knee locked and your toes pointing forward. Slowly lift your right leg directly out to the side. Do not swing it. Raise it smoothly and deliberately over 3 full seconds until it reaches approximately 18 to 24 inches away from your standing leg or as high as your hip mobility allows. At the top, hold for 4 full seconds. Squeeze the outside of your right hip with maximum effort. You should feel an intense, focused burn along the outer edge of your right hip bone. That burn is your gluteus medius working under genuine resistance. Lower the leg over 4 seconds. Do not let it drop. Perform 12 repetitions on the right side, then switch to the left. Complete 3 sets per side with 45 seconds rest between sets. As you progress over several weeks, reduce your grip on the chair from 2 hands to 1 hand to just fingertips. Exercise number 4, the seated marching hip flexor drive. This exercise targets your iliopsoas, the deep hip flexor that determines whether you stride or shuffle. Sit on the front edge of your chair. Do not lean back. Keep your spine completely vertical, as if a string were pulling the crown of your head toward the ceiling. Place your hands on the sides of the seat. Lift your right knee as high toward your chest as you can while keeping your back perfectly straight. The moment you start to round your lower back, you have gone too high. Stay just below that rounding point. At the top, hold for 3 full seconds. Focus on the deep burning contraction you feel in the front of your hip, deep in the crease of your groin. That is your iliopsoas activating. Lower your foot over 3 seconds. The instant your right foot touches the ground, begin lifting your left knee. Maintain a controlled, rhythmic, marching tempo. Each lift takes 2 seconds. Each hold lasts 3 seconds. Each lowering takes 3 seconds. Complete 20 total repetitions, 10 per side. Perform 3 sets with 60 seconds rest between sets. Breathe continuously. Inhale as you lower. Exhale as you lift and hold. Now I need to tell you something absolutely essential that will determine whether these exercises actually rebuild your muscles or simply waste your time. After age 60, your muscles develop a biological condition called anabolic resistance. In plain terms, this means your muscles become partially deaf to the chemical signals that normally tell them to grow and repair. When a 30-year-old eats a meal containing protein, their muscles respond vigorously. Amino acids flood into muscle tissue, and new protein synthesis begins almost immediately. But when a 65-year-old eats that same meal, the muscle response is significantly blunted. The signal gets sent, but the muscles barely hear it. The solution is an amino acid called leucine. Leucine is the primary trigger for a molecular pathway called mTOR, which is the master switch that activates muscle protein synthesis. Research from the University of Texas Medical Branch demonstrated that older adults need approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal to overcome anabolic resistance and trigger meaningful muscle rebuilding. Younger adults need only about half that amount. Foods highest in leucine include chicken breast, eggs, salmon, tuna, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, soybeans, and whey protein powder. If you are performing these 4 exercises faithfully but eating toast and coffee for breakfast, a small salad for lunch, and pasta for dinner, you are tearing your muscle fibers down without giving them the raw materials to rebuild. Aim for 25 to 30 grams of quality protein at every meal, 3 times per day, with a deliberate focus on leucine-rich sources. Now listen to me carefully. If you struggled with that 10-second hip test, if your leg shook at 3 seconds, if your hip burned before you reached 5, I understand the impulse to feel discouraged, to feel as though your body has already failed you. That belief is medically, scientifically, categorically false. Researchers at the University of Alabama documented significant muscle fiber growth in study participants who were 92 years old. Your muscles do not stop responding to stimulus at 60. They do not surrender at 70. They are waiting for a challenge they have not received. Start with exercise 1, the glute squeeze and bridge hold. Practice every other day for 2 weeks. Then add exercise 2, build gradually at whatever pace your body allows. Within 4 to 6 weeks, try that 10-second hip test again. The difference will astonish you. Go back and do the test one more time right now. Could you hold the full 10 seconds? Did your hip shake less than the first time? Comment your result below. Tell us your age and exactly what you felt. Your independence is not something that fades inevitably. It is something you fight for. And that fight starts today.